Not every woman who smiles at you carries light. Some wear beauty like a mask, but behind the charm is something darker. Control, manipulation, emotional poison. And most men don't see it until they're already drained mentally, spiritually, even physically. There are signs, always, but you must be still enough to notice, wise enough to trust your inner resistance, and disciplined enough to walk away even when your heart is confused. In this teaching, I will show you 7 clear signs that the woman beside you is not who she pretends to be. The last sign is the most dangerous because once you see it, it may already be too late. Stay with me. Your peace, your energy, and your purpose depend on it. Have you ever felt a quiet disturbance in the space around someone? A feeling you struggle to define, like sensing a storm gathering even on a clear day. The surface might appear calm, even inviting, yet something deep within you sounds a silent alarm. You might question yourself, wondering if you're merely imagining things, letting suspicion cloud your judgment. But consider this. What if that subtle intuition, that persistent nudge, is actually your inner wisdom attempting to guide you, to protect you? What if there are distinct, observable patterns, not mere guesses, but clear signs indicating a presence near you that carries a potential for harm? To ignore these signs is to risk your inner peace, your vital energy, and perhaps much more. This isn't about assigning labels carelessly. It is about the quiet practice of observing human behavior, recognizing the subtle currents of energy between people, and understanding patterns that often forecast trouble long before it fully manifests. Many drift through life unaware of these signals, becoming entangled in situations that drain their spirit, leaving them confused and depleted. Do not allow yourself to be caught unaware. The insights I wish to share are 7 significant patterns, observations gathered from witnessing countless interactions and their consequences. Overlooking even one might leave you vulnerable, but understanding the complete picture, that offers clarity, that offers a shield. Stay with me through this exploration because the final piece of this complex puzzle, it is often the most skillfully concealed, and grasping it is truly the key to seeing the whole truth, to protecting your own well-being. You owe it to yourself to understand this. Let us begin the observation. The first evident sign is one often felt before it is understood, registered more by your body and spirit than by your logical mind. It is the persistent experience of being energetically drained in their presence. We all experience fatigue, of course. Life demands energy. But pay careful attention to the specific dynamic here. How do you feel immediately following an interaction with this particular individual? Consider your state before engaging with them. Perhaps you felt balanced, clear, even vibrant. And then afterwards, do you consistently feel depleted, heavy, foggy-headed, as if your own inner light has been dimmed? This goes beyond merely listening to complaints, although that can contribute. It points to a more fundamental energetic transaction. A person operating from a place of deep inner lack, carrying significant unresolved negativity, may unconsciously or sometimes quite consciously draw upon the vitality of those around them. They act like an energetic sinkhole. They might not appear overtly negative. Indeed, they can be quite charming, engaging, even seem caring on the surface. The crucial clue lies in the consistent outcome of your interactions. You are left feeling inexplicably tired, mentally scattered, or even with a sense of physical malaise. This draining effect might be achieved through a constant stream of low-level complaints disguised as casual observation, or through subtle but unceasing demands on your emotional resources needing constant validation, sympathy for manufactured crises, or assistance with problems they seem unwilling to solve themselves. They create an energetic vortex, pulling others into their field of need. Reflect on this. Genuine connection, even when discussing difficult topics, tends to foster a sense of mutual understanding or shared effort. You might feel tired from the intensity, but not depleted in this specific, unnerving way. A healthy energetic exchange involves a natural flow, a give and take. With the pattern we are observing, the flow is predominantly one way. They often seem to leave the interaction somewhat refreshed, perhaps even subtly energized by the exchange, while you feel like a battery that has been significantly discharged. Do not dismiss this feeling simply because it defies easy logical explanation. Your sense of profound exhaustion after interacting with them is vital information. It is your innate intelligence signaling a fundamental imbalance, warning you that this connection is costing you essential life force. Acknowledge this feeling, record its consistency, This is the first sign. The second sign shifts focus from the purely energetic to the psychological realm, although these two aspects are inextricably linked. This is the mastery of subtle manipulation. We are not necessarily speaking of obvious coercion or threats. Often, the most insidious and damaging manipulation operates beneath the surface of conscious awareness, causing you to doubt your own perceptions, your feelings, even your sanity. A primary technique employed here is what is often called gaslighting. Have you experienced explaining your feelings or recalling an event involving this person, only to have them flatly deny it occurred, significantly distort the details, or accuse you of being overly sensitive, irrational, or making things up? This is a systematic attempt to undermine your confidence in your own reality. Phrases like, "That never happened," "You must have misinterpreted me," or "Why do you always twist things?" are common tools. Over time, this persistent invalidation can erode your self-trust, leading you to second-guess your own memory and judgment. You might begin to think, perhaps they are right, maybe I am the problem. This confusion is precisely the intended effect. Another favorite instrument is guilt tripping. These individuals can be remarkably adept at making you feel responsible for their emotional state or their perceived misfortunes. They might employ dramatic sighs, recount elaborate tales of woe, casting themselves as the perpetual victim, or subtly imply that your actions or lack thereof have caused them significant pain or hardship. They skillfully leverage your natural empathy and sense of responsibility against you. Consequently, you may find yourself constantly trying to appease them, walking on eggshells to avoid triggering their displeasure, desperate not to make them feel disappointed, abandoned, or hurt, emotions they expertly project onto you and make you feel accountable for managing. Furthermore, they might engage in triangulation, introducing a third party into your dynamic to exert control. This could involve telling you, "Well, third person agrees with me that you're being unreasonable," or feeding different versions of events to both you and another person, creating conflict and positioning themselves as the mediator or the central figure who holds all the information, thereby maintaining control over the narrative and the relationships involved. Observe the communication patterns closely. Do conversations frequently leave you feeling bewildered, burdened with guilt, or doubting your own recollections? Do you find yourself apologizing for things you aren't entirely sure you did wrong? Are your genuine concerns consistently minimized, dismissed, or cleverly turned back against you? This is not about occasional misunderstandings that can be resolved through open and honest dialogue. This is a persistent pattern of psychological maneuvering designed to control your behavior, foster dependence, and keep you perpetually off balance. It chips away at your self-worth and your fundamental ability to trust your own inner compass. Recognizing this consistent strategy of subtle, pervasive manipulation is essential. This is the second sign. Short pause, shift in tone slightly. Are you starting to connect these observations? Feeling that energetic drain we spoke of, coupled with the unsettling confusion of subtle manipulation. These first two signs often work in tandem, creating a foundation of unease. But the pattern doesn't stop there. It often extends outward, revealing how this inner state colors their view of the entire world. The next signs show how negativity can become both a shield and a weapon. Stay observant. The third evident sign is often unsettling because it reveals a deep misalignment with basic human connection, often concealed beneath a facade of polite concern or detached observation. This is the presence of secret joy in others' misfortune, also known as schadenfreude. It is the deriving of a subtle, often hidden, sense of pleasure or satisfaction from witnessing the struggles, failures, or pain of other people. Now, most individuals displaying this trait will not openly celebrate when something unfortunate happens to another, especially not to someone they purport to care about. The evidence lies in the subtle signals, the micro-expressions, the fleeting energetic shifts that betray their true feelings. Observe carefully when news of someone else's hardship arises. Perhaps a colleague faces a professional setback, a mutual acquaintance goes through a difficult breakup, or even a stranger experiences some public embarrassment. Outwardly, the person exhibiting this pattern might offer conventional words of sympathy. "Oh, that's truly awful," or "I feel so sorry for them." But look closer. Watch their eyes for that brief, almost imperceptible flicker of satisfaction. Notice if there's a slight, quickly suppressed smile or smirk. Listen to the tone of their voice. Does it ring hollow, lacking the resonance of genuine empathy? Sometimes this tendency manifests more overtly, disguised as concerned gossip. They might seem almost eager to share negative news about others, lingering on the unfavorable details with an intensity that feels less like compassion and more like morbid fascination. Did you hear the latest about David? It's just terrible. But let me tell you precisely what went wrong. There's an underlying excitement in the recounting, a focus on the drama and failure that feels more like entertainment than shared sorrow. Another manifestation is the tendency to subtly minimize or dismiss others' successes while readily highlighting their failures. When someone achieves something positive, their praise might be faint, qualified with a "but," or they might quickly pivot the conversation away. However, when someone stumbles or fails, they become instantly engaged, keen to analyze the situation, perhaps even offering thinly veiled "I told you so" statements disguised as helpful advice or insightful observation. This pattern speaks volumes about their own inner landscape. Finding satisfaction in the pain of others often points to deep-seated insecurity, resentment, or a profound lack of genuine empathy. Their own sense of self-worth may be so fragile that witnessing others' difficulties provides a temporary comparative boost. It becomes a distorted way of coping with their own feelings of inadequacy or bitterness towards the world. Pay attention to how they react not just to your challenges, but to the misfortunes of everyone in their orbit. Is there a consistent pattern of subtle gratification, an excessive focus on negativity, or a discernible lack of authentic compassion when others are suffering? This hidden pleasure derived from pain is a significant indicator. It reveals that their capacity for empathy is, at best, highly conditional and selective, and at worst, largely absent. This is the third sign. The fourth sign requires stepping back and listening intently to the narrative they construct about their own life, particularly concerning past relationships and experiences. This is the sign of a history painted solely with blame. Pay close attention to how they describe previous connections, former romantic partners, friendships that ended, past family conflicts, even difficulties in previous work environments. Is there a consistently recurring theme where they are always the injured party, the blameless victim? Is every significant person from their past ultimately portrayed as unreasonable, malicious, jealous, incompetent, unstable, or having inevitably betrayed them? While it is certainly true that individuals can experience genuinely unfair treatment and be wronged, someone exhibiting deeply ingrained harmful patterns rarely, if ever, acknowledges their own contribution to conflicts, misunderstandings, or relationship breakdowns. The narrative they present is characteristically one-sided. Ex-partners are typically labeled crazy or abusive. Friends who drifted away are dismissed as toxic or disloyal, often using pop psychology terms inaccurately to pathologize others. Former employers or colleagues were invariably unfair, threatened, or didn't appreciate them. There is a striking and consistent absence of self-reflection or personal accountability in these stories. They recount events in a way designed to elicit maximum sympathy for themselves, casting themselves as the perpetually misunderstood martyr navigating a world full of flawed and hostile actors. Ask yourself, do you ever hear them express genuine remorse for their own past actions or words? Do they ever articulate, even with difficulty, how they might have contributed to a problem or what they learned about themselves from a negative experience? Or is the story always presented as a clear-cut case of their innocence versus the other party's culpability? A psychologically healthy individual generally learns and evolves through life's challenges, including relationship difficulties. They can usually articulate, even if it's uncomfortable, where they might have misstepped, misunderstood, or could have behaved differently. They recognize that relationships are complex, dynamic systems involving the contributions and perspectives of all involved. The individual displaying this fourth sign, however, often seems fundamentally incapable of this kind of introspection. The blame is consistently and completely externalized. This isn't merely about saving face. It often serves as a powerful defense mechanism, protecting a fragile sense of self that cannot tolerate admitting fault. It also serves a manipulative function in the present. By establishing a compelling history of victimhood, they garner your sympathy and preemptively frame any potential future conflict between you. The unspoken message is clear. If things eventually sour between you and them, the established pattern strongly suggests you will be the next character cast as the villain in their ongoing personal drama. Observe the unwavering consistency of this blame-centric narrative. If everyone else was the problem every single time, it is a strong indicator of unresolved internal issues that are highly likely to manifest in harmful behaviors within your own relationship with them. This pervasive inability to accept responsibility is the fourth sign. Another short pause, perhaps a deeper breath. History does tend to repeat itself, especially when blame is the only lesson learned from the past. We've seen the energy drain, the subtle manipulation, the unsettling joy in others' pain, and the refusal to accept responsibility. These patterns reveal a troubled inner world. But what happens when these patterns turn towards actively controlling your environment and your connections? The next signs delve into strategies that become intensely personal and potentially isolating. Recognizing these is crucial for maintaining your autonomy. The fifth evident sign involves observing not just their direct interactions with you, but how they engage with your broader social ecosystem. This is the deliberate or instinctual use of isolation as a strategy. Pay close attention to how this individual interacts with and speaks about your established support network, your close friends, your trusted family members, even supportive colleagues. Do you notice a subtle, or sometimes overt, pattern of attempting to drive wedges between you and the people who form your safety net? This strategy can manifest in various ways, often cloaked in concern or supposed insight. They might consistently find fault with your friends or family members, making critical remarks about their personalities, questioning their motives, or suggesting they don't truly have your best interest at heart. You might hear comments like, "Are you sure spending so much time with Sarah is good for you? She seems a bit negative," or "Your parents just don't understand you the way I do." The implication is always that they are the only ones who truly get you, the only reliable connection you have. They might actively create drama or misunderstandings involving your loved ones. This could involve selectively relaying information, twisting conversations out of context, or subtly poisoning your perception of someone else's intentions, thereby forcing you into awkward positions, making you feel you have to choose sides, or simply creating an atmosphere of tension around your other relationships. Another common tactic is to demand an ever-increasing share of your time and emotional energy, subtly inducing guilt if you choose to spend time with others. They might express frequent disappointment, saying things like, "We never seem to have enough quality time together," even if you interact regularly, or framing your independent activities as a form of neglect towards them. The underlying objective, whether consciously plotted or driven by unconscious insecurity, is to weaken your connections to external sources of support, validation, and perspective. Why? Because an isolated person is easier to influence and control. When your other relationships are strained or diminished, you become more dependent on the manipulator for social interaction, emotional support, and even your sense of reality. They aim to become the central figure in your life, the primary source you turn to, which significantly increases their leverage and control over you. Observe if there's a pattern of them speaking negatively about people close to you, if tensions seem to arise between you and others shortly after this person's involvement, or if you feel increasingly guilty or hesitant about maintaining your other friendships and family ties. This strategic isolation is a powerful tool in the arsenal of someone with harmful intent. It is the fifth sign. The sixth sign addresses a disturbing inconsistency that can be deeply confusing and emotionally jarring. This is the pattern of inconsistent charm alternating with hidden cruelty, sometimes referred to as a Jekyll and Hyde dynamic. This individual may present a remarkably charming, attentive, even captivating facade to the world, or specifically to you, particularly in the early stages of the relationship or in public settings. They might seem thoughtful, complimentary, witty, and deeply interested in you. This charm, however, is often a cultivated tool, a mask worn to disarm you, gain your trust, and draw you into their sphere of influence. The Hyde aspect, the hidden cruelty, tends to emerge behind closed doors, in moments of perceived safety, or directed towards those they deem vulnerable or unimportant. You might witness sudden, inexplicable shifts in mood from warm and engaging one moment to cold, dismissive, or bitingly critical the next. This cruelty might manifest as sharp, demeaning comments disguised as jokes, sudden bursts of unwarranted anger or irritation over minor issues, or a chilling emotional withdrawal that leaves you feeling confused and anxious. They might treat service staff, subordinates, animals, or children with disdain or impatience, revealing a lack of empathy that they carefully conceal when trying to impress someone they perceive as valuable or powerful like you initially. Pay close attention to how they speak about others when those people are not present. Is there a stark contrast between their public persona and their private commentary? Do they engage in vicious gossip or character assassination behind people's backs, even those they pretend to like? Observe how they handle stress or frustration. Does minor adversity trigger disproportionate rage or contempt? This inconsistency is deeply unsettling because it keeps you constantly guessing, never sure which version of the person you will encounter. The periods of charm serve to reinforce the bond and make you doubt the moments of cruelty. Maybe I imagined it, maybe I provoked them. This cycle of intermittent reinforcement, alternating positive attention with negative treatment, is known to create strong, albeit unhealthy, emotional bonds, making it harder to leave the relationship. The charm is the bait and the glue. The cruelty is the underlying reality of their potential for harm. Recognizing this stark duality, this pattern of calculated charm deployed as a mask for underlying hostility or contempt, is crucial. This is the sixth sign. Final brief pause, perhaps looking directly at the camera with increased gravity. We've navigated through 6 significant patterns: the energy drain, the manipulation, the joy in suffering, the history of blame, the isolation tactics, and the charm that masks cruelty. Each one is a serious indicator, but they all tend to stem from or be amplified by the final, most fundamental sign. This is the bedrock upon which much of the harmful behavior rests. Understanding this final piece is paramount, as it reveals the core deficit that makes genuine connection and healthy relating impossible. Pay very close attention now. The seventh and arguably the most profound and defining sign is a profound lack of genuine empathy and remorse. While the other signs describe behaviors and strategies, this one points to a fundamental deficit in their core emotional capacity. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's the foundation of compassion, kindness, and healthy relationships. An individual exhibiting the patterns we've discussed often demonstrates a marked inability to truly step into someone else's shoes and feel with them, particularly when they are the cause of the other person's pain. They might be able to mimic sympathetic responses, saying the right words, "I'm sorry you feel that way," but observe closely for the ring of authenticity. Does the apology feel genuine, accompanied by a visible sense of concern or regret? Or does it feel hollow, mechanical, perhaps delivered with a subtle edge of annoyance or justification? "I'm sorry, but you were being." True remorse involves acknowledging wrongdoing, understanding the impact on the other person, feeling genuine regret, and ideally taking steps to make amends or change the behavior. Individuals lacking this capacity often skip straight to defensiveness, blame shifting, or minimizing the harm they've caused. They may seem genuinely baffled or impatient when confronted with the emotional consequences of their actions. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" is a common refrain, revealing their inability to grasp the other person's emotional reality. This lack of empathy allows them to engage in manipulative behaviors, exploit others' vulnerabilities, and inflict emotional pain without experiencing the internal checks and balances that guilt or compassion provide for most people. They might understand intellectually that their actions cause distress, but they don't feel it in a way that motivates genuine change or prevents repetition. They might express regret only when facing consequences, focusing on their own inconvenience rather than the hurt they inflicted. Look for patterns where they consistently disregard or invalidate your feelings, especially when you express vulnerability or pain caused by their actions. Notice if apologies are rare, conditional, or quickly followed by justifications. Observe if they seem indifferent or even annoyed by others' suffering, unless it serves some purpose for them, like eliciting sympathy for themselves. This fundamental inability to connect emotionally on a level of shared humanity, this absence of genuine empathy and remorse, is perhaps the most dangerous sign of all. It indicates a deep disconnect that makes truly reciprocal, respectful, and safe relationships virtually impossible. It is the seventh and often the most defining sign. Hold gaze, speak with calm finality. recognizing these 7 signs: the energy drain, the subtle manipulation, the hidden joy in misfortune, the history painted with blame, the isolation strategy, the inconsistent charm hiding cruelty, and crucially, the profound lack of empathy and remorse is not about judgment. It is about discernment. It is about equipping yourself with the awareness needed to protect your own peace, your energy, and your emotional well-being. These patterns, observed consistently, paint a picture that should not be ignored. Trust your observations. Trust that feeling in your gut that something is fundamentally misaligned. Seeing clearly is the first and most crucial step towards ensuring you are surrounded by connections that nourish, support, and respect your spirit rather than diminish it. Your well-being depends on this clarity. Observe wisely and choose your company with care.